Good evening, everybody, and thank you, Jarvis. Now, he told you that he was a talker. He can tell lies, too. You know, about this time, the presenter ought to be saying how pleased she is to be here, to have been invited. Ain't so. Ain't so. Monday, I heard the voice of Gerard Hines. Never heard the name before. Now, I'm going to kill this Jarvis Bailey, because he was the one that brought Gerard to me. And today, I've seen him for the first time. But I can tell you, he's a smart little young man. He completely convinced me that I needed to be here today. You know, with our masks on, I can't tell everybody that's here. I do know one. I know a couple of people. Of course, you know, I know the mayor, and I know Trav. That I can tell. I can't tell who you are, but I am very pleased. How in the world did you find out to be here? Because I didn't even know a thing about this until Monday afternoon. But anyway, Gerard wanted me to tell my story. Now, if I told my story the way I wanted to tell my story, you'd be here too long, because I've been here right many years. But Gerard gave me some prompts to shape my story, the way he wanted my story shaped. So, before I want you to know that I'm going to follow his prompts and I'm going to obey. But you need to know that my sister didn't get down here to tell me what to put on and to comb my hair. So, I don't see her here either. But whatever you see is what you get. I'm not going to say thank you, Gerard, but I can tell you right now, even though I'm mad with you and I'm going to kill you, I do love you, because you have convinced me. You have convinced me. Okay. Now, I told you I'm going to try to obey Gerard's prompts. And because he told me what he wanted me to do, I wrote a few things down. All these pages, I'm not going to read everything that's on it. I'm going to start out with what he said. You see, he wanted me to tell the story of Fredericksburg with me in it, and the story of black people in Fredericksburg with me in it. Well, you know, let me tell you, I came to Fredericksburg to work in 1957, and but I started visiting here, visiting my brother and sister-in-law when they came in 1954. See, my brother had opened up a funeral business here, and I would come to visit. So, what I saw in those years that I came, Fredericksburg was a fine place, a really great place. There were black businesses here. We had a couple of funeral homes. We had a moving and hauling business, somebody owned that. A blacksmith, real estate construction business person. There were barber shops and beauty salons and dentists and doctors. Everything. Fredericksburg had everything, I thought. Now, some people worked in federal governments at up in D.C. or in that area and Dahlgren. They also had a lot of people who worked at A.P. Hill and Quantico. So people worked, people did things, but what impressed me was that many of those persons, black ones that I knew, participated in service organizations, and they, and I interacted with those people until I came here to work in '57. Now they were the ones that I saw, but my story would be incomplete if I didn't tell you how I got here, how I came to Fredericksburg to get a job, to start working. Well, you see, my brother was here. He owned a funeral home. Well, he came to open up a funeral home. And I would come to visit. And I met somebody. And so, I came to visit a lot. That's okay. Anyway, one time I came in for Labor Day 1957, and my brother said to me, Marguerite, there's going to be a vacancy at Walker Grant School. The business teacher's leaving. So I sat right down, typed a letter to the superintendent, applying for that job. My brother took it to Mr. Hook's house. That's the superintendent's name. That's the superintendent's house. Put it in his door because for Labor Day he was away. Well, when he got back home that night, he called the funeral home. I was still there. Anyway, and that must have been Sunday night. He called the funeral home and said, can you go to Richmond tonight for an interview? I said, yes. So somebody I had met carried me to Richmond. 10 o'clock that night I was being interviewed in the kitchen at the principal's kitchen, and he was the principal of Walker Grant. But it lived in Richmond and stayed here, went home on weekends, stayed here during the week. I was interviewed. Next morning, I went home because I had left Emporia. I had gotten a contract to teach at home, Eastern Shore, Accomack County. And I went on home next day, and I got a phone call. Well, I started to work, but I got a phone call from the superintendent of Fredericksburg, wanting to know if I could come back to Fredericksburg to be interviewed by him. So I came that weekend for an interview. Went back home again, started working at Marion Smith High School, these high school that I graduated from and these boys graduated from. Anyway, he called during that week. I came for the interview, told him I had already signed the contract. He said, okay. He called during the week and said, I've talked to the superintendent of Accomack County. You can start working at Walker Grant School on September 12th. I'll be expecting to see you there. So I came. That was September 12th, 1957, and that's where I have been the whole time, in the city of Fredericksburg since that time. Okay. He asked me to tell you That's Gerard. Gerard asked me to tell you the story of, to share some of my memories, some of my favorite memories. Now, you don't ask a 92-year-old person to talk about any favorite memories. You don't do that. Because I got a lot of them. I got a lot of them. He mentioned a poem that Gay had given. When I came here, Gay was was a student in the 9th grade at Walker Graham School when I came, but I'll talk about that later. But anyway, favorite memories. Okay. My brother Weldon was running for a seat on Fredericksburg City Council. Now he had an opponent, and there were other candidates running for seats on the council. Now, with no money, no know-how, just family and friendly foot soldiers, my brother had the highest number of votes in all the candidates in the city of Fredericksburg at that time. We celebrated. That's a favorite memory. That's a favorite memory. Okay, I want to tell you another one. Fredericksburg really has a history of active chapters of NAACP. Now, one year, young John Scott, some of you will remember Scotty. He became a judge here, circuit court judge here. Well, young John Scott was president of the Fredericksburg chapter one year when I was there, and he asked me to serve as membership chair of the membership committee. Now, I did the work. We found out that year that Fredericksburg had the greatest increase in membership of all the chapters in the country. You know, that's a favorite memory. I was invited to present a workshop at the state NAACP convention in Norfolk that year. And then there's another one. When I started at Walker Graham, I was assigned the 9th grade homeroom. Now, mind you, all the students at Walker Grant School were excellent students. They were good students, all of them. And in my 9th grade homeroom was a very creative, intelligent young student, 9th grade. Now, I had that class in homeroom, and I taught them different subjects, English and business subjects and whatever. 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade. Now, you can see how this is a favorite memory. When she graduated as valedictorian, got accepted at Boston College, came back to, worked up in New York, came back to Fredericksburg teaching, got selected as State Teacher of the Year, became nationally and internationally known entertainer. You know who she is. That's a favorite memory. That's a favorite memory. And then I have another one. For a few years in the state of Virginia, 10th grade students had to take a standardized test. And at that time, I was teaching 10th grade English, 9th grade English, and 10th grade English. But those students had to take a test. And during that time, at that time, a student in my class, in my 10th grade English class, made the highest score on that standardized test of anybody in the city of Fredericksburg. Now, a number of those students did well on the test. Of course, I got investigated, and the principal and guidance counselor got investigated. When was the test given out? How long before she gave it? All of that. We bristled when folks wondered how a black student in Fredericksburg, taught by a black teacher, could make the highest score on the standardized test that the students were taking in the state of Virginia. That's a favorite memory. Now, Gerard wanted me to tell the story of my family, what family means to me, and how racism affected the family and all that kind of thing. Well, let me tell you about the family. I'm the second in a family of 8 children, educated in the public schools of Accomack County. I might have to read that. I'm so old I can't remember. But I said 8 children, all of us educated in the public schools of Accomack County, all of us through college with master's degrees or above. Now I do want to kind of put it in some order, and I'll kind of look at it and tell you that we said that all of us finished college or went to college, and that happened because everybody had to help everybody. When you got out of school, you got a job, you went to work, you helped the next one coming along. Okay? We are still that close, that we're close enough to help each other when we need it, and we celebrate when we succeed. And that's done all the time. In Fredericksburg, it is known that if you get one Bailey, you get them all. Right now, sitting out here, now, the only reason you don't see 1,000 Baileys out here is the COVID-19 is here. But I got my grandson, I got my nephews, I got my great-nephews, and I don't know who else is here, but they're going to be here. They would have been here because if you get one Bailey, you get them all. Okay? Let me tell you about our family. I said there were 8 children. Our parents had 6th grade education. See, there were not high schools in my parents' time, in our county, for African Americans at that time. They had 6th grade education. Our mother was a homemaker who saw to it that we had time to get our lessons and do our chores. Now, Daddy always had specific things that you had to do. Now we had to do our chores, but we had to help other people, okay? Daddy always had specific things. Well, go over to Miss Class Sidney's house, it's gonna snow. Put some wood on her back porch and fill up her wood box in the kitchen. JB, fill up that's Jarvis's daddy, Jarvis and Jared's daddy, that's my brother. JB, fill up the trunk with some wood and take it back to Ms. So-and-so. She doesn't have any wood on her pile, on her wood pile. Marguerite, take Aunt Fanny to the doctor in Cape Charles. Leave in time to be sure that she gets there for her appointment. That meant leave so you don't speed. Because Daddy would set the boys down. If he heard that they were speeding, he he would take the car away from them. They couldn't drive him for a long time. But anyway, that was saying, don't you speed, but get Aunt Fanny to the doctor. Well, I said my mother was a homemaker, and with hard work and ingenuity, our dad, with 6th grade education, built a trucking business over time with 5 long-distance trucks on the road, hauling produce. Now, he hired and trained young men to be long-distance drivers, and he helped some of those drivers to get a truck of their own and go into the trucking business. You see, we learned early on that the priorities for the Baileys were family, education, work, and helping others. That's our family. I'll throw out that since I got all these nephews and whatever, all of them had to go to school, do the work. Oh, my brother JB would make these boys cut grass, do all kinds of things. But they had to work, they had to go to school. All of us, even all of them, including my own grandchildren and great-grandchildren, go to school, do well in school, be the best you can be. That's what was taught to us, and that's what we had to do. That means sit down and shut up. I'm waving to somebody that I know. I know who he is. Okay? The next thing that he wanted to talk about wanted me to talk about how did racism affect us in that family. Let me talk about, well, it affected all of us in some ways. I can remember my dad was doing hauling. He first started out with local hauling and then went long distance hauling. And he got loaded quite often. My youngest brother he made everybody work. He was in loading one day, and Daddy was saying, yes, sir, to a very young white man. Now, my youngest brother didn't like it. Why are you saying yes, sir, to him, Daddy? Daddy I understand Daddy told him, you do what you have to do until you can do what you want to do. And that's what we learned early on. But yes, racism did come in. My brothers, my 2 youngest brothers went into military. All of my brothers were had military service. My brother Weldon was in World War II in Germany, during that time. My brother JB, their daddy, right after the war was over, he had to be in reserves for so many years and had to go every summer. If I'm talking too long, just raise your hand. But anyway, he had to go in the reserves. He was in the reserves for a number of years. My 2 youngest brothers were one in the Navy and one in the Army. Both of those both of them rose to positions of authority. My brother Eugene became a Navy captain, taking care of a couple of ships. He didn't call them ships, he called them something else, I don't know. My brother Bill, the youngest one, he was a lieutenant colonel flying. He was in combat right much, flying. He became injured in Vietnam, flying what I call helicopter. He didn't call them helicopter, he called aircraft. But anyway, anyhow, they were in military service, but they didn't get, those boys did not get, my brothers did not get to those positions of authority. They persisted, they studied, they got knocked down, they got told, well, my brother in the Navy got told, don't no nigga control a ship, get to control a ship. My brother that was flying, you got told often, you won't pass the aviation test or whatever it is you had to, but they both proved them wrong. So racism always is something, and it's there, and a lot of people don't know that it is racism. You have no idea what happens. Let me tell you about me. Okay, I was teaching. I taught business at I got to Fredericksburg now. I was teaching business subjects in English at Old Walker Grant, and our students could go anywhere. I told you that Gay went to Boston, but other students went other places. They did well. Anyway, integration came. So, and I was a business teacher, and our students were going to go to James Monroe High School. Okay, there was some concern in the community. What you going to do with Marguerite? What you going to do with Marguerite Young? There was a lot of talk, I understand, even some meetings. Well, I got assigned to teach 7th grade math and a class called Citizenship, we named it, at Walker Grant School. Richard Garnett was the principal, and this citizenship class was for overage children, and Richard Garnett picked the teachers who were going to teach them, who was going to teach the science and the math and the English, and you had to have social studies. So we named the class Citizenship. Supposed to have social studies. I taught everything because I had overage kids. Income tax, how to keep your checkbook, car insurance, because a lot of those kids were going to go, they were out working. So we did all kinds of things. Well, you see, many of those kids I said were overage. Well, they didn't like coming to school, and they would skip school, but a lot of them would skip, especially the white ones. They would skip school, but they all come to my class. They came to my class. Now, I don't really know, but the school coordinator took notice. That's a glorified truant officer. We call him school coordinator. She took notice, and she convinced me that you need to be doing some things out here in some of these organizations. And I got involved with Opportunities Unlimited. That's it. Opportunities Unlimited. And from there, I got involved with everything you had right here in Fredericksburg. But I talked about those students in that citizenship class. Some of them were overage, and it was thought that they were not going to finish high school. Don't you know that many of them, well, they all went to high school. They all went to James Monroe, all of them. Most of them finished. They kept coming to me. And somehow I got to be assistant principal, and they would come for advice. But many of them right now are excellent citizens of the city of Fredericksburg right now. um, racism. You know, I kept requesting I was a business teacher and English. I kept requesting to go to James Monroe to teach business. I kept persisting. Well, when integration came, Walker Grant became Fredericksburg Middle School, and I was assigned not to go to James Monroe, but they hired a young business teacher. Anyway, I was assigned to teach 7th grade math and that citizenship class, and Mrs. Copp, another math teacher, and I had to share 2 sets of books, and our students would take, you know, when she had the advanced class, I'd send my students, send the books over to her for her class, and she would send the class the books that she had for my not so good, for my average students, I'll say, in that class. And we shuffled those books back and forth every day. Okay? The principal was Richard Garner, the fairest white man I know in the city of Fredericksburg. Okay? He had that teacher to observe my teaching that math class. You? Not for me. She came in to observe. Now, I'm not a new teacher, so I know how to teach. And it didn't matter who came in my classroom to observe, and I observed a lot of teachers. I did that. But when she observed me, she wrote the report, gave it to the principal, and he showed it to me. And what she wrote was, master teacher, master teacher. She was a white teacher that he had sent to observe me. But she did say, master teacher. And so, oh, I hear my sister, okay, my sister's here. She didn't get down here time enough to comb my hair and tell me what to put on. But that's okay, I'm here. Okay, now I was telling you, okay, I was telling you about going to James Monroe. I wanted to go there, and I kept trying to get to go. They had a position available. I'm going to tell you how I found out. Richard Garner told me. Okay? They had hired a young teacher, and she wasn't going to make it. He let me know I'm teaching 7th grade math. He let me know. I don't know whether he wants everybody to know, but he came in my 7th grade classroom that day and said, I don't know how we're going to do it, but I want you to get to come to James Monroe. Okay? Because he had been principal at Walker Grant when I was doing 7th grade math. Okay? So, okay. You might want me.
I think that, can y'all see over there? All right.
Okay. Anyway, it was decided that I was going to go. And I asked the superintendent, I'm okay. I applied. Well, what I was told, Richard Garner sent for me. We were at the middle school. He sent for me to come to his office. And I had an interview at James Monroe. He said, the superintendent asked me not to let you go, find a way for you not to go for that interview. But I want you to go for that interview. Come back here. I'm going to wait for you here. Come back here and tell me how it went. I went to James Monroe for that interview so I could go over and teach business. And the principal didn't want to bother with me. He sent me to the head of the person who was heading the business department. And she was in the library. She didn't have much time. Okay. Finally, she came to talk. What she wanted to talk about was the fact that she had some students that she had put into businesses here. You know, the students go into stores or whatever. You know that program. They got into offices. And she had placed a student in an office, black student from Mayfield. And that student had left, had gotten herself a job with a white lawyer. She didn't like it. And she talked, the head of the business department talked about that to me. Okay. I went back to Richard Garnett and told him, they don't want me over at James Monroe. They don't want me. But if I didn't love what I'm doing here at Walker Grant Middle School, I would see to it that no more federal money comes into the city of Fredericksburg. I went to James Monroe. Now, going to James Monroe, the morning that I went to James Monroe, I know Richard Garner was pleased to see me, but he said to me, Ms. Young, welcome. Keep up the standards of the business department. At the end of that year, I said, Richard Garner, don't tell anybody else that. They have to come up to my standards. The people in the business department. Ask the students, I said, ask the students. So, I've had a great year. I mean, not year. I've had great years in the school system in the city of Fredericksburg because I knew how to teach. And the way you do that is to love and respect your students and know your stuff. You got to know what to do. But you got to love and respect your students. And that's what I did. Now, I have not had a whole lot. I mean, everything, you know, folks don't realize that there is racism. You have no real idea that there is something that's the people on the other side have some feelings about. And most of the white folks don't have any idea. And you know what it is? They have white privilege and they don't even think about it. They have no, you know, they don't have to talk to their children about being cautious when you go into the store and don't touch anything that you don't plan to buy. They don't have to say to their children what to do when you are approached by a policeman. They don't have to do that. I see the students. They can talk right back to the teacher just like they talk back to the parents. Not black children. Black children have been taught. I mean, white children do not, I'm sure, don't have to hear some of the things that black children have to hear in order to make it in society. Now, I know that in today's world, like my grandson had white friends. They were very good friends. I know. And I'm thinking Matthew and I mean these are my great nephews and all. They they had very good friends, and I don't know how, I believe that they do well. I mean, I think they do well with their friends. That's what I think, and I don't know. But I can tell you that their parents have had to say to them things that I had to say to my child, and things that our parents had to say to us. You know, you go to the 5 and dime store and we want to look at stuff, don't touch it. Don't touch it. You can't do that. But you could see other little children my age, and they were fiddling with stuff. You know, there are things, it's all different. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I guess it is something wrong with it. I don't know whether it's wrong or not, because I'm 92, and so that's the way I'm brought up, and that's the way black children are brought up. I know my grandson has been told, don't touch it, don't run in the store, don't run around in the store, stay with me, all of those things. And I don't know that little white children have to do that. I remember going home to Eastern Shore, and my nephews, you know, my nephew would like to run around, and he, you know, he had white friends, I think, you know, and his daddy was telling him stuff. Well, he'd be running around in the store. Had to snatch him back, because he couldn't, we knew that he couldn't run all around. He saw his friends doing it, people that went to school with him, but he couldn't do that. We made sure that he learned. This one right here. Now, here in Fredericksburg, you know, Gerard wanted me to talk about what I saw, if there were any, did I see any tragedies against black people when I was younger? No, I didn't. But you know, in my time, black folks knew what they were supposed to do. They knew what they were supposed to do, and so they didn't step out there to do a whole lot of things. So I didn't see tragedies. I didn't see any tragedies when I was younger. He wanted me to also talk about what I did about shaping the minds of young people. I'm not sure I did a whole lot of that, but I hope I did. But here's what I say. Old people, set the example. Now, when I talk about setting the example, some examples don't need to be set. But what I'm talking about is get all the education you can get. Learn everything you can learn. Share it with others. Share your feelings. But most of all, show your love and respect. Show your love and respect for those children, to those young people, and you want to know something? They'll follow you. They will. If you do that, they will follow you. Now, also, that's not all. That's setting the example. Let the young people fly. Let them go out there and do what they can do. They have ideas, but gently advise them. Give gentle advice. You don't have to use that loud voice like I have, and I do that too. But let them fly. Let them do some things. Don't just stop everything. Take a strong stand when you need it. And they know when you take a strong stand. You don't let them just go and do everything. You take a strong stand when you need it. Be available often and always. Ask Gay Todd. Ask these children that I taught and ask them. Be available often and always. The next thing, you gotta let young people know that you're not always right. Well, they have to know that you know that you're not always right, but they need to know that you're not always right. Let them know that. And last thing, tell young people the truth. Tell the truth. Whatever it is, tell the truth. And I say, you can mold the young people's minds, Gerard. You can mold them if you do that. You know, I believe that. Now, he wanted me to say something to the parents, you know, white and black ones, about how to raise them. You know, I really can't tell you that. Now, I think my son was raised very well. He might not think so. That's my grandson over there. That's his daddy. But the thing that I say, if you do those things that I just mentioned, if parents will do those things that I just mentioned, their children will be fine. They will do very well. Remember, we started right out getting all the education you could get, all of that, parents and everybody. But if you do that, the children are going to be okay, and you're going to train, and they will raise them very well. I mentioned that there's a little bit of difference, I believe, in what white folks have to do with their children and what black folks have to do. And I mentioned a few things. So that's going to always happen until the youngest of us find out that everybody is equal. Everybody is the same. And we can all, and when we old folks with our ideas are gone, it'll be better. Because right now, I have my ideas, and I know I know very well my place. I know what my place is. And we teach our children what your place is. Now, they might go out there and they want to act like whatever, but they know where their places are. They know. And they move up all along. My younger brothers and sisters didn't take all the stuff that I had to take to get there. My sister standing over there on that, got that face mask on, you know, waving and carrying on. She got to be principal and worked at the central office. She did all that too. But she didn't quite have to go through all I had to do. But let me tell you this. At one point, because old Marguerite Young was been in Fredericksburg for a long time, and she was a principal, I think, she was in one of those upper positions in the school system, not getting the support that she needed. Guess what I did? Called the chair of the Fredericksburg School Board. Come to visit my home. Come talk to me. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you what's going on with my sister. Had it all written out, all typed out. Told her what had happened. The very next day, the superintendent had new things for my sister. Back things. The point was, she was not getting what what some of her co-workers were getting who were not black. And I guarantee you the superintendent did not recognize that until it got pointed out. But okay, so here's, ladies and gentlemen, I've lived a long time. I've been in the city of Fredericksburg, and Jarvis just told you that, you know, you probably heard my name, and yes, I go after you. You don't fool with them bailiffs. Don't fool with them bailiffs. No, sir. Them bailiffs had better do what they're supposed to do, but don't fool with them, don't mess with them, because I hope I got the respect that I ought to have. And I really appreciate all that you have let me do here, and all the love and everything that you've given to me, all the awards. I don't know if yes, sir. Yes, I do. I will work hard in the next few days that I have on this earth. I will continue to do what I feel is good for Fredericksburg, because Fredericksburg is a place that I love. And I want to tell you that all of the students that I have had the privilege of teaching, of being principal of, or directing, working in curriculum areas, all of them were outstanding students. And you want to know something? I said at a commencement address that I gave to Richard Garner. Richard Garner was kind enough to let me give a commencement address. I was surprised. And I gave a commencement address, and a young man, 2 or 3 years later, I saw in a store, he was like a manager of a store. He came up to me and he said, "Ms. Young, I know you. I know Anchors Away. I was in that graduating class when you talked about Anchors Away. And I want you to know that all of the people that I have ever worked with were outstanding people. And many of them, and I see some of them right out here right now, are outstanding citizens. They are carrying on what we thought they ought to be doing when they were in school. And I thank all of you for coming out. I'm pleased to see so many people here. I'm not sure you came out to see me. I guess you just came out for the atmosphere. I really appreciate it. Anyway, thank you. I see my pastor standing up here at the door. Thank you.
She's 92.